I'm gonna call up next different panelists that are going to give us a discussion on the role that artistry had in the genocide against Tutsis in 1994. And they're also going to tell us what role art has today in our lives and how we should use it to live against whatever caused the genocide against Tutsis, and how we should work with it to make it never happen again.
What happened in the genocide, pre-genocide, during the genocide, against the Tutsi, and after? My experience is I was a bit maybe older than some of you, maybe. I remember that what we kept seeing was these guys dressed a certain way while they were going to kill people. I remember radio was very important, TV was very important back then. The internet wasn't available yet. I remember them going into houses with T-shirts written Emerende on them, written with Sede written on them, with clearly a mission. Now, they had songs as well, so artists were part of the whole thing. Artists that were encouraging them. You know, music is like a drug. It's supposed to be a good drug, but it can also be a bad drug when you're using it to do wrong. In a very few words, for those who have an idea about what happened in '94, what can you say, as far as art is concerned, what can you say is one of the memories that come to mind?
So I want to go a little bit further than just the genocide and build on the fact that Rwanda is a country that was built strongly on oral traditions. So we had imivugo, we really valued the fact of ear to mouth. And that really shaped the way we come together as a people, the way we shared, be it gossip, be it important news, the shouting on the mountains. So storytelling has been so key to building the country, but as you mentioned, it also became key in trying to destroy it. Storytelling, what it did in terms of radio, was so quick to the ear that it drove people to action, not only because of the time of '94, but because of the culture that had come way before that. So it's been very important, and even in our future, as the work that I'm involved in, we can keep seeing how the oral tradition of Rwanda is so key. And the second thing that you said, the fact of, as a culture, we really valued coming together to the King's Palace, coming together as a country, as a people. We still do it in our Imirenge. Right now, at 3 people came together. So coming together was so powerful. And music is a tool. It's already known. It brings people. And you mentioned it, the naming, naming something, creating that new identity through storytelling was a tool that was used to make the Interahamwe follow a certain cause, which I want to challenge ourselves to see the power of that culture, not to use it for good. So we used music, we used oral tales, and we used that gathering factor, which, I mean, it's very obvious, and I think it happened for the bad and the destruction of the country, but there is a lot to learn from it for the future to come.
Thank you, Dominique. Yzolde, today we're in the era of Made in Rwanda, showing what Rwanda can do as far as clothes are concerned, being able to export our clothes outside of the country, but being proud of what's made here in Rwanda. Now, if we go back to what we were seeing in '94, some of the clips, even for those who weren't there, some of the clips, the YouTube clips of people in the stadium, Amahoro Stadium, you know, driving around the football pitch, wearing Emerende hats, Emerende jerseys, Emerende jackets, you know, all in a very incendiary way, calling people to go and kill. What's the message you're trying to deliver today as a young person who, you know, in 2018? What's the message of the new Rwanda as opposed to what was happening back then?
I think, just like Dominique was saying, I think that art is a very, very big it's a human expression of imagination and creative skills. So many tools have been used during the genocide, and from exactly what she was saying, I think it has had a very big impact on what people or people were living, and also what they were doing. I believe that she left out a bit of the infographics or the caricature that were used, but that were also very important tools that could easily reflect to the people's mind and make them make them have an impact on anything that was happening. I personally believe that art is very powerful, and as young people, I think it's very important for us to think that of a way to empower other people to do something for a positive impact this time. She has been talking about the Interahamwe. You also talked about them. They were wearing t-shirts, they were wearing jackets, and all of that was made in Rwanda. And honestly, even opening my eyes, I don't even want to see that picture. Now, what if we use that creativity? What if we use that imagination and create something positive and create something that can put Rwanda on the map, on the fashion map? It can either be art map, fashion map, or manufacturing map. And I believe that with all of you people that are here, with all of these beautiful and creative brain, we can do something. I myself, I make shoes made in Rwanda, and I believe that with my imagination and my creativity, I can actually transfer a good image of Rwanda, and I will call upon you, all of you, with your beautiful creative minds to do the job as well. It's not easy, but we can push our minds to think about that and transfer a very positive image about Rwanda.
Thank you, Yzolde. Philippe, when I talk to you, I remember growing up, the stories of Rwanda we were told, at least visually, as far as books are concerned, were stories by colonials. So you had Jean-Paul Arroy, who was a Belgian colonial, who had made a book based on how he saw things, which clearly was not inclusive of everybody. We had another book called O Rwanda, which was made by excluding a certain portion of the population, which again contributed to the hatred and everything that followed, everything that ensued. With the book that you just released at Illume, and other projects you work on, just with your photography lens and with videography, what image are you trying, whether you think about it prior or while you're doing it, what image are you trying to showcase? An image of Rwanda. What image are you trying to showcase?
Thank you. So when we talk about the image of Rwanda, it's very important to remember that by the time the internet was around, the newspapers and whatnot, a lot of the images were very negative. They were very negative, they were very graphic, meaning they were very harsh. And most of the time it was foreign journalists who were in Rwanda who were able to show photos, especially during and after the genocide. So all the images were really bad and really hard to look at. But we do have to acknowledge that that was part of our history. Unfortunately, that story was told by people outside of Rwanda. They came, they took a few photos, you know, they released them in the newspapers and they left. Okay? But now, the youth and everyone that has been in this country and been doing something interesting, we have a chance to show a different side of Rwanda. And like my fellow panelists have talked about it, whether being, you know, in fashion, in other activities, essentially we're showing a different image of Rwanda. Because when we started Illume Creative Studio, which is a communication agency, the vision was to change what you found every time you Googled Rwanda or you Googled what was happening here. the two things you would find, I called them the two Gs. It was the gorillas or the genocide. Those were the images you tended to find online all the time. So we said, okay, some of us are skilled in photography and can show a different side of the world. Let's use that. Let's use that power because it can influence groups of people. It can influence, one, the way we look at our own country and the way other people look at our country. So that was very important. And through photography, we've tried to show different sides of this beautiful country of ours, 1,000 Hills. And we've done so through a book called This is Rwanda. And this was done by aerial photography. So the perspective is already very unique. You're seeing Rwanda in really a different light. It's all from the air. And yeah, that was the vision. It was really to truly change. When you Googled Rwanda, every time, for some reasons, well, I mean, for the reasons we know, you would get genocide or the guerrillas. But there was a lot more happening. And even to this day, there's a lot more happening. So even today, all these photos are going to come out of here and show people sharing ideas and stories. So this is a work that has to keep going constantly. Every time you share a photo with the world of Rwanda, you're showing everyone else that there's something different and really good that's happening in this country.
Dominique, when I interviewed you back in the days, I don't know if it was a former life of yours. Yes, I was saying, I interviewed you back in the days. I don't remember if it was a former life of yours or if it's still something you partake in. But I remember something that was key was you were selling books. And these books were important. And you were also writing books. And these books were important to you. Now, taking back to prior to 94, let's say between 1990 and 1994, there were these newspapers here in Rwanda, Kangura, that were, depicting a certain, portion of the population a certain way, that were teaching that were teaching hatred. Do you do it when you're actually writing your books and when you're selling them? Do you do it having the youth in mind, knowing that they're going to read them and that you're going to influence them in a way that changes the narrative from what it was? Is it something that's in your mind, or do you just do it and let it flow and just wait to see where chips will fall and not necessarily have that in mind?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So when we started, we were mainly inspired by the lack of literacy and actually the effect of low literacy rates on the genocide. We realized that the less people read, the more they are prone to believe in whatever is told to them. So we realized, in 1994, there was one voice, and that voice was much louder than the others. And unfortunately for us, the youth, there were very few people who went back and said, why? Many people, when someone said, pick up a machete, kill your neighbor, or kill your wife, we, as a team, we always are challenged by that factor. What has to go on in the mind to obey some external person and not listen to the person you shared a bed with, you shared food with, you shared life with? So we realized as a youth that we really have to work on our critical thinking skills. And critical thinking skills can only come when, first of all, you are exposed to other mentalities, which was something that was lacking. The books, 90% of the books that were about Rwanda, and I'm so glad that Philippe is challenging that, 90% were written by foreigners or by people who had the same agenda as the genocide. So we had to change that. So imagine we set up different libraries. And the second thing was to get people to ask why. Critical thinking comes when it's okay. You create an environment like this one where it's okay for people to say, I don't really think that what she said is okay. So we created that area. We set up about 18 libraries, and we worked with children to ask, why is this book like this? Who wrote it? And those questions made them less susceptible to just listen to information and say, oh, that's right, let me do it. So I believe that literacy rates, as much as they go, the more they go up, the more they will have positive impact. And the second thing I wanted to talk about was the importance of our image in creating our identity. Art, the new Rwandan art, we have just the expressive art, which is Inema, Neo Arts, all those painters that are growing in the country who are using art to create a new identity, to create, I mean, we just saw poetic justice. The more you are given a voice, the more your identity is shaped and is stronger, and the more you are proud of that identity. So what we're doing as Imagine We is including that in the new books that we're doing. We're actually releasing a book around, inspired by Yzolde, and it's if we as Rwandans are proud of her, not only will she be proud of herself, but foreigners will be proud of her as well, and it will be going on for generations and generations. So representation matters, and obviously it will trickle down to Google and happy things. So representation matters, and it has mattered in '94 because one people was not represented enough, and the other represented those other wrongly, and we want to change that to create self-confidence, to create a brighter future. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you. Yzolde, usually when people mention the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, the political aspect is the one that's brought forward, then the military aspect, of course, and they go hand in hand. But it's quite rare that art is mentioned in what, you know, led to the genocide and how the population was actually, you know, motivated to actually go on the hills and kill their fellow citizens just by, you know, hearing it on the radio, reading it in the newspaper, and so on and so forth. Now, what to the youth that's here, that's, I call them the pre-94 youth, the youth that was born after '94, that was too young in '94 to understand what was happening. Tell them what got you into art. What made you want to make shoes? What made you want to become an artist? Give them an idea.
Well, thank you very much. Again, coming back to art, I think it's a very, very powerful tool. It hasn't only started around that time. It has always been represented into the kuboha, gaseke, the dancing, the inori, kutoriro, and all of those different mediums of art have been used into growing, have been used to shape us as a country, to shape our culture, and for it to be something. Same thing happened during the genocide. Lots of mediums of art have been used. But I think that, and then after that, of course, the RPF came in and did an amazing job. We are always and will always be thankful. But I think that for the moment, they also have used their own tools for us to be able to be sitting here today, to be able to, for anybody to walk on the street at 3 in the morning and don't have any problem. But I think that, again, as Philippe mentioned it, I think that it's our job as the youth to educate people about our country, and it can be through anything that we do, especially arts, because it's one of the most expressive medium, but also it can be anything that our mind is pushing us to do. I think it's very important, and it's our role as youngsters. So many of us that were young, so many other things have been put in place for us to be seated here now. Now, what is our role? What are we doing next? I think that it's very important for us to think about that and put it in our heart and actually think about it every morning. What can I do to educate people about Rwanda? There's so many beautiful things that we see in Kigali, that we see in Rwanda, but it's still our job to make people understand that it's not only about the 2Gs that Philippe was talking about.
Now I'm being told we have 5 minutes left. This question can either go to Philippe or Dominique, or you can either share the answer. That's fine. It's about the healing process. Now, the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi happened 24 years ago. In the years leading to now and going forward, how, in your mind, what do you think art has contributed to the healing process of the Rwandan nation?
Arts is very important in the healing process. Yes, we can have different means of healing, but I think for most people, one of the easiest way to connect is through art. It's when it's music, you understand the lyrics immediately. You know, when you see a photo, you get it. It's that tangible and that palpable. So it's very important. And then when we also are creating art, or even the youth that's here, whatever you're creating, always think about the legacy, right? We've had the chance, and you know, the RPF liberated this country, and their legacy was to give us, you know, this country up to now, right? And now we have to ask ourselves as the youth, what are we going to leave for our children behind, right? So be conscious of that, be aware, be present, understand the moment you're in. We're privileged to be here. Unfortunately, many of our family, friends didn't make it, so it's out of honor, it's really think about what are you leaving behind. Yes, it's good to have fun, party, whatever, but it's also important to think about the legacy. What are you leaving behind for the generation to come? So be conscious of your actions, of the art you're putting out there, because it matters. Your kids later on will be able to look at it, and everyone else will be able to have a better understanding of where this country was and where this country is now. With this book, definitely, we're saying, okay, this is Rwanda in 2017. It was a long project with my colleague Gael and the rest of our team at Illume. But we're saying, okay, we're showing you Rwanda. This book came out in end of 2017, early 2018. We're saying, okay, maybe in 5 years we can look back again and back again and back again. So it's a good, we hope, legacy project, and we'll continue to build on that. Legacy. Think about what you're leaving behind, because it matters. And in 5 years, in 10 years, someone will be able to look at it, and hopefully they'll have a different image of Rwanda.
Dominique, I would like to finish with you, and just leading you into your answer. Between prior to 1990, Rwandan culture had been very prevalent, whether here in the country or for Rwandans living in refuge outside of the country. Between 90 to 94, when you've been privileged and lucky enough to have conversations with our troops, our soldiers, individually, and they tell you about how music was very important to their survival, how it kept them going, how it was important to their morale. And you know, they cite Cecile Kayirebwa and Muyango and Florida, and all these great artists we had in Rwanda, troops that were created outside of the country as well, right? Do you think the Rwandan music today represents that, you know, an art that's, you know, supposed to be motivating and, you know, be purposeful? Or do you think we still have a long way to go to match that era?
I love the healing. Healing is really important to me. But to start with your question, our music has a really long way to go. It's very positive because I believe that every musician, for them to get on stage or to get going, they imitate their role models. There's a book that I love, it's called Still Like an Artist. So you take what you love, and the more you take what you love, you internalize it, and one day something of your own will come out. So the youth of today is slightly stepping away from our elders, Kamariza, Cecile Kayirebwa, what they showed us in terms of Rwandan music. But as we even noticed today, Weya has incorporated. So I think we try to modernize and we learn the skills and we try our best, and one day we will emerge with our own very, very unique music that will put us in the map. So I think we have a long way to go, but it's a positive way. I think looking at Rwanda from where we've come and where we're going, there's only going up. I never doubt, as a youth, as a people, I never doubt our power and the power of our unity, the power of our reconciliation, the power of our peace. And going back towards healing, one of the things that we have today, our biggest asset as a people, is hope. Different people, as Imagine We, because we create communities, just like maybe this one, what we've seen with art is one person takes the stage and there's so many people who will rotate towards them and say, that was me, I went through that, and they start creating these conversations, and these conversations have led to healing. There are lots of people, you have Iribagiza, who wrote a book, Left to Tell, and lots of people woke up and say, that's my story, and that's art. We released a book called Mahoro, and there was a book club, and people started saying, that happened to me, that happened to my mom, and creating that community where you feel like you're not alone. The play showed it. There was so much solitude after the genocide that today more people are saying, oh, that happened to me, and what it says is we're not alone. And another thing that I wanted to say is, our new identity is shaped. When you say that we're not alone, it's almost like holding someone's hand and say, what's forward? So spoken word kind of lifted the youth that was creative, and they said, okay, here's a stage, use it. So this whole healing process through art has been so powerful that, I mean, sitting on this panel, what I want to say is, to actually thank the youth for taking ownership to whatever activities. Coming here is you saying, that's me, that's my part. And showing up to all these places that are trying to share who we are is strengthening our identity, is putting us on the map, is helping us leave a better legacy. So I'm really grateful to the youth. Keep doing what, let us keep doing what we're doing. I'm youth as well. Let's keep doing what we're doing. Show up, support, get these amazing shoes. Do whatever you need to do for our Rwanda to be a unified and reconciled people again. It will take a while, but we are doing so well, and look around, and may this only just give you hope. Yeah.
Well, there you have it. There's nothing to add to it. Legacy, purpose, healing, and basically keep showing up in numbers. The future is in your hands, but understand that art can be a very, very, very important big tool to getting to our prosperous future. Thank you very much. Thank you to the panel.